Pat Davitt. Good morning, Pat.
Good morning, Jamie, and how are you?
I'm good. Happy Valentine's Day to you, Pat.
Thank you very much.
Are you romantic at heart? You are?
Yes, of course, yeah. Sure. I think we all have to be romantic at heart because we have very little left, especially if we have wives and children and partners, etc., etc. So we have to be that little bit romantic, of course.
Yeah, no, yeah, very much so. Listen, it's good to talk to you. First time interviewing you, and we had Regina Mangan on yesterday. So you're Chief Executive of the Institute of Professional Auctioneers and Valuers. And we had a good debate, myself and Regina, about Daft.ie and the criteria that they would use in terms of, I suppose, collating their information. So, firstly, before we talk about Waterford, what do you think about the way information is collated? And Regina had said that really the Residential Tenancies Board, the RTB, the government should have a different way of looking at rents, and it shouldn't be done necessarily by a private company. Daft are fully entitled to do it, and again, their figures would stack up, they would say. So, do you think we should have a different way of analysing the percentage increase in rents and such matters?
Well, of course, Damien, there is a public body there at the moment, the RTB Residential Tenancies Board, and it has been there since the early 20s. And the idea of this Residential Tenancies Board is to collate all this information and to be able to put it out there and advise the government of what national rents are, what they are in different properties, how many properties are being rented, how many landlords and tenants there are, etc., etc. And that's what they're actually there for. They regulate the business of renting in Ireland. They have an act, a government act law to back them up. And the problem with them is that over the years that they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. So if you went to the Residential Tenancies Board today and you asked them, can you tell me of all the live tenancies that you have in the country at the moment, what's the average rent for a 3-bedroom semi-detached house? They could not tell you. So hence we're depending on different companies like Daft to come out with figures, which they come out with every 3 months, and they tell you what the rents are. But those rents that they tell you about and that they talk about are only for those particular 3 months. What we've been looking for and what the government should be looking for is the average rent for a property of all the rental agreements that are live at the moment. And then we know what the average rent is, because there's no point in telling us what the past 3 months rent is. But there are people who maybe in the past 3 months getting and being charged, landlords getting and tenants being charged maybe €2,000 for a 1-bedroom apartment. But there are people that could have the same property rented for the past 5 or 6 years that might only be getting 1,000 and only paying €1,000 for that apartment. So we don't have that information. And the government is listening to Daft and other companies like them, given this information. And that's what policy has been built on, instead of being built on the actual facts when we have a body there to do it. And I wasn't listening to what Regina was saying yesterday, but I did speak to her about this many occasions, and I'm sure that's the point that she was trying to get across.
It was.
That's what should be the case.
Yeah, now we got in touch with Ronan Lyons, he's head of Daft.ie, and he sent us an email last night. And he said the total number of Waterford City listings used in the analysis for the report out yesterday, was just under 600. While we, of course, don't know how many changed hands offline, it's certainly a large enough sample on which to perform the hedonic regression analysis on which the index is based. Typically, he says, we would only worry about reliability of the results from such analysis when the sample size per market is less than something like 25. So they're defending their analysis, and they're saying that their sample size is large enough to allow for that statement, for example, to say that rents in Waterford increased by 20%. So,
well, I think it's okay for them. That's okay for them to say that, and there's no problem there in they saying that whatsoever. Some of the things that they do say, that there's only so many properties to rent and things like that, which is completely incorrect, because nobody knows. Today, for instance, I can't tell you how many properties there are to rent, or Daft can't tell me, because I don't know. Daft can tell me how many is advertised on their portal, which is fair enough, but this might be only 20, 30, maybe 50% of the properties that are actually going to be rented advertised on the Daft portal for numerous reasons, maybe to do with the cost, maybe to do with the amount of inquiries that people get, etc., etc. So a lot of landlords at the moment aren't advertising their properties to rent at all. They keep a list of people who they know are interested in properties, and when a property comes the way, they call those people and get them to look at them, and they'll rent the property to them, etc., etc. And many agents are doing exactly the same thing. So it gives the impression, the Daft, lots of times, that there are only a small, very tiny amount of properties for rent, when that in actual fact is not true, because people do not know how many properties there are to rent. I have no doubt that the information that they're given and the sample is large enough that they actually can come to a conclusion, and they can say, yes, of course, the prices are gone up by so much. And I have no doubt about that, and I wouldn't question that in the slightest. But what I do question is the government believing that there's only so many properties to rent on a particular portal, one portal, at any one time, and taking those figures as gospel in relation to the amount of properties that are to rent in the country.
Okay.
That's a real problem, and I think it's a real problem created by the government and the RTB, because they should have the actual standard national figures from the RTB, a body that's there to do that particular job.
Yeah, and if anybody has any questions and queries regarding their own particular landlords, get in touch with the RTB, obviously, if the landlord doesn't help out, because people are texting in specific queries and problems they're having. But for example, Rob has texted in to say a healthy rental market, Pat, would be at 3% of stock. That's an international comparisons for rent at any given time. There's no such measures nor actions in many of the county plans. That would mean, for example, in Waterford, 1,500 homes on Daft, there's only 15. So the county plan also doesn't take into account the number of young people staying at home. And I was listening to Brendan O'Connor over the weekend as well about people living with their mammies and daddies and the hidden homeless. So there is a massive issue there, and we've discussed it, and it's been on the RTE again last night. Can I ask you, from your perspective, give me two simple things that you would like to see the government do that would alleviate in the short or medium term the pressures on the system? Oh, I think we might be back there now. No, it's okay. I think we might be back there now. Let's see if Pat is coming back there now.
Yeah, Damien, I got cut off there somewhere.
Yeah, no problem. You're fine there, Pat. Yeah, back on the WhatsApp. Yeah, no, the signal on the line was very good. No, I was just saying about the number of hidden homeless and the amount of people that are living with their mammies and daddies at home and all those different things. So can I just ask you briefly, if you wouldn't mind, Pat, give me two simple things that your organisation, the IPAV, are calling for that would help alleviate or somewhat sort out the situation a little bit in the short or medium term. Like, I was talking to a man yesterday whose friend is getting out of the rental market. He had 5 properties and he's just literally getting out of it. He's not going to be a landlord anymore.
Yeah, well, one thing that we're calling for is the abolition of these RPSZs altogether. They've done nothing only to accelerate the rent increases in property since 2016. And the main reason is because when they were brought in, they were only brought in for sitting tenants. They weren't brought in for new properties. So they allowed all these new properties to come in at the top of the RPSZs, which weren't included in the RPSZs, which have run up the rents of these properties.
That stands for rent pressure zone. People don't understand.
That stands for rent pressure zones, yeah, for the rent pressure zones. And we feel that they should be done away with. Like sitting tenants, since 2016, their rents have gone up by 19%, which is 7 years. That's what the rents have gone up. People outside of the RPSZs, which are not sitting tenants, those rents have gone up by a whopping 75%. So those rent pressure zones were brought in to control the rent and control rent increases, and they have actually done the opposite. And furthermore, that man that you're speaking about that's leaving the property market, many landlords are leaving the property market, and they're at the lower end of the market. They're not even getting market rent for their properties, and they're getting out of the market. And what's going to happen eventually, and it may not take that long, maybe a couple of years, is that all of the lower rented properties with landlords like your friend are going to be gone. And what we're going to be left with is the higher rents at the top of the market, which if you want to rent a property today and you want to pay 2,500 or 3,000 euros for it, there's lots of properties in the marketplace for you to rent.
Okay.
But if you want to rent one at 1,500, there isn't one to be got.
We've got Waterford talking. Deise Today with Damien Tiernan on WLR.